Hello, everybody, coming to you live on this day 11 of 101 days live. And I have my beautiful friend Sarah Holt joining. We are, hey. So I'm so happy this is working so well now. Okay, I am just getting to a somewhat blank page in my book in case I have any questions that pop up. And I want to introduce you all to Sarah. Sarah and I met through Unstoppable Influence, kind of a theme here. You guys are probably hearing it. But there's so many amazing people in that group, and we've made such great connections. And I truly feel like everybody is family. And Sarah is an emotion code and body code practitioner, and she learned, I think you were in the process of certifying in those in 2018 when I hit rock bottom. Um, and she, oh my gosh, she really helped me to get through some of my darkest days. And I have to add this part that so we did our calls through Zoom because she's in one of our favorite locations in Florida. Just you're in Pensacola now, so that whole area is absolutely the best beaches that we have found. And we're on a Zoom call, and she picks up on something that I didn't even mention that was happening with my body. So with the body code, she's able to really tune in, the emotion code too, obviously, but she was able to tune into something where I was having a physical pain in one specific spot on one side of my body, and I hadn't even mentioned it. And she goes, "Oh, there's something going on here." And I went, "What?" And I was a 100% believer from that point forward, because going into any of these things, we're often like, "Oh, well, that sounds a little out there. How's that even possible?" But it is, and we all have gifts. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to let you share more about yourself and your gifts, and then we'll go from there. And Sparrow, of course, has to be in the video.
That's awesome. Well, so I wear lots of different hats actually. So I am an ordained minister. I have a doctor of divinity. I'm a holistic health coach. I'm also a certified aromatherapist, a certified reflexologist, a certified emotion code and body code. So it's like I started all of that journey though because I had terrible health issues and like the medical world wasn't helping me. And so I was like, I'm a smart person. I can figure this out. I can work to try to figure this out. So I just learned all sorts of things. I'm also a naturopathic doctor, which I'm not allowed to use here in the state of Florida. So
Oh,
I I do lots of different things. And mainly, again, just because I had a need and I was like, I'm going to learn about how to help myself. Because I really don't like to be dependent on other people for my health and well-being. I figure it's my body, it's my responsibility to take care of it the best I can. And so I was like, maybe I don't know the best way to take care of it. And so I really did go on a really long journey on how to best take care of my body. And that journey involved me losing 100 pounds, because I had gotten very overweight, and then I was so sick, I almost died. Um, I was septic 6 times in 1 year, and if you don't know what that means, it means my body was basically trying to kill itself off. It was like, yeah, you're sick. And
yeah.
my doctor was like, it's a miracle that you survived being septic once. He's like, it's astronomical that you survived twice. He's like, it's it's out of this world that you survived 6 times, no less, in 1 year being septic. He's like, so it's obvious you have stuff to do on the earth. Which is so funny. My doctor said that because didn't believe in anything except science, and he was like, "You've got a purpose here, and you need to fulfill it." So I've been trying to figure out what that is for the past 3 years, because that happened 3 years ago. So I've just been on this journey of figuring out what my purpose is and what my destiny is, and just really getting more in touch with that and following what I'm called to do here, because I want to accomplish what I've been put on this earth to do. And I want to enjoy life as I do that, you know? So it has been all about finding the joy in the mundane is really, because
Oh, yeah.
when I was sick, I couldn't even get out of bed. Like I couldn't even, like, I spent the day sometimes between my bed and the bathroom. That was my day, bed and bathroom.
Mhm.
And so I really did had to learn to look for the good positive things, no matter how minute, and
And
focus on that.
what, why do you think that you had the power to focus on the joy and the light rather than sitting there and wallowing in, oh, my life is terrible. Oh, if everybody else gets to do these things and here I am stuck. And how did you have that ability to move towards the
Well,
light?
I was on the one side for a while. I was like, woe is me, this sucks. How come everybody else can do stuff and I can't? And I heard this teaching, and it was all about changing the way you think. And that's really what got me into learning about neuroplasticity and the effect that our thought life has on our entire bodies. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find 10 things to be thankful for every day. And that's how I started. And the first day, oh my God, it was so hard. I was like, there are 10 things for me to be thankful for today, you know? And it was like, really had to retrain my thinking, because when you're really sick and your sickness has progressed for a long time, and mine was over 10 years, when something like that happens, you really do change the way you think. It just affects you. And I didn't realize at the time, but you have a choice as to how it's going to affect you. And so I chose the negative effect for for a long time. And then once I became aware that I had a choice and I could change the way things were going, I was like, I'm going to choose the more positive route. It was just a discipline at first. It was very much, I had to be very disciplined with it. I had to make myself sit and do it. But I found that the more that I did it, the more I did it, like just naturally, So it went from, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to write down 10 things today that I was thankful for, to all of a sudden, I've got 25 things on my list and I haven't even, thought, I've just been
Mhm.
writing, And so it's so cool how that changed the way I thought, so that when I was going through my dad dying, because my dad recently died, and when I was with him through all that and everything happened, I was able to say, hey, I know that this is going to work out for all of our good. Hey, I know that even though this sucks right now, this was perfect timing. This is perfect will. This is exactly how it was meant to go. And I was able to see good things every day in it, and just be so grateful and have lots of gratitude that I had that time with my dad, that he gave me a parting, like blessing, if you will. Like he told me that he was so proud of me and that he loved me. And I mean, I was like, look at all these gifts that I'm getting here at the end. Whereas if I had gone through that without having gone through retraining my thinking, I would have been a mess. I would have just been like unable to handle it at all. And I would have thought I would have been upset at a whole bunch of stuff, because he fell and he broke his hip. And that's what ended up, you know, uh, his demise because he had a broken hip and he couldn't have surgery to repair it. I could have been really upset and regretful and, just full of anger, but I wasn't. I was just like, well, this isn't how I thought it was going to go, but it's how it's going, and there's good in it, and I'm just going to find it.
Right. And that's a beautiful skill to be able to do that. So a quote comes up from Ernest Holmes: "The thing we surrender to becomes our power." And you found that way of surrendering to the things that are going to lift you up instead of surrendering to the physical circumstances that you're having to experience here in this lifetime. And through that, you've been able to, because you wanted to learn to heal yourself, you've been able to help others heal. Um, I don't know if you're still offering remote sessions, but if you are, let's definitely put the link down in the comments because she helped me tremendously. Is there the whole meant for something bigger keeps coming back to mind as you're talking. Can you can you expand on that a little bit for people who just might be feeling the same way and might be discouraged because they haven't figured out what that something bigger is? I know you've been in the process for a while.
Yeah. So, gosh. So when I was at my lowest, in the middle of my illness and everything, I remember talking to God and being like, if this is all that I am created for, this sucks and I don't want to be here anymore. Because what's the point? I know I don't want a life of suffering. And I can't imagine that you would create me just for that. That sucks. I gotta say I don't like that design. If that's it, that's just wrong. So, um, when my doctor told me that, it really started me thinking about, I know I'm created for a purpose, and I know that God has something for me here on the earth. I know that there's something that only I can offer because God wouldn't have put me on the earth if there wasn't something that only I could offer in my own unique way of the way He made me. So I started to just be open to hearing, and talking to God and having conversations about, okay, so what am I supposed to be doing? Who am I really? Because in the middle of all that, I became a people pleaser, and I went from having the nickname at my job of, no lie, the ass kicking ball crusher, to this huge people pleaser that just wanted other people to be happy and would just roll over and give in to anything, you know. And so I was like, so who am I really? Where am I in the middle of all that? Am I really the ass kicking ball crusher, or was that just two sides of the same coin coming out in different ways? Who am I really? And so it was this really long journey that I'm coming to believe is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey to know who you are, to know everything about yourself, to know like your place in the world, your place in history, your place on the timeline. And so it's just been amazing because I started, and what's been so helpful for me in that is that every day I will stop and ask at the beginning of the day, okay, what's my next step I need to take today towards my destiny? What is it today that I need to do? Sometimes it's about buying a web domain. Sometimes it's about painting. Sometimes it's about reading. Sometimes it's about writing. Whatever it is, I'm just like, okay. Even one day it was like, take a day off. Okay, I'm going to go have fun. um, and it's so cool because now that I'm looking for the divine appointments, I'm looking for people that I'm supposed to be interacting with as I'm out and about. As soon as, my thoughts are that way, things come into my path. It's not how that happened at all. Things were already in the path. I just couldn't have eyes to see it because I wasn't looking. So now I'm looking, I'm seeking, I'm like, okay, who do I need to bless today? Who do you have a word of wisdom for today as I'm talking to people? Where do you want me to spend my money today? Even stuff like that, it's just like, okay, I know that I'm accomplishing part of my purpose by doing these little mundane little things because I know in the end it's going to add up to my destiny.
Right. Yes, I love that. So the painting is new. I would love for you to share how that came about and tell people a little bit about your process and how those flow.
Yeah, so oh my goodness, I had this like horrible experience when I was growing up with art, and that my art teacher kept me back from school. When I was in second grade, I had to stay late at school because I painted a tree brown because when I looked at the bark, all I saw was brown. And we were supposed to include all the colors that we saw. And I really only saw brown. Like, that's how I saw the bark. I got in trouble for that. And this lady ended up being my art teacher for 5 years. She did
Wow.
not. And so every time I started to do art, I would literally break out in a sweat. And
Mm.
arts and crafts, just like, no, I don't want to do art at all. I even wrote a book about art in high school because that was part of what I had to do. I wrote 2 books about art and I got graded on it and I got the highest score possible, which I thought was just like, what? How is that even possible? But so I had a stepdaughter, and when she would come visit, she always wanted to do what she called hearts and crafts, which I thought was so beautiful.
Oh,
So, but I would do it with her, and I'd be so stressed doing these hearts and crafts with her. So during COVID, somebody was like, you should do this prophetic art class. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you know? So I was like, well, maybe I should. Maybe it'll be fun. Nobody's going to be around to see what it looks like afterwards. I'll just have fun with it. And so it was a Zoom class. It was a lady in Australia was teaching it. And so I was like, I had so much fun with it. I was like, this is fun. You just pour paint in a cup and pour it on a canvas. What could go wrong? Doesn't have to look like anything. I was like, this is great. I wish someone had told me about abstract art before now. I could totally
mhm.
just and not be worried about composition and does it look right and that's not a tree. Oh gosh, I was stressed about that. My stick people didn't look like people. It just got so
Oh
stressed with
no.
all. So so now I really use it I remember learning with I forget the doctor's name, but he's some guy in Japan who did research on water and the effect of water, and how depending on what you spoke to water, the water crystals would form differently. Well, all of the paints that I use, I have to mix with water to get the right consistency of the paint in order to do what I want to do with it. So I started putting intention and speaking into the paint as I was mixing it up with water. You know, so one color is love, one color is freedom, one color is joy, one color is kindness, you know. And so when I paint, it's got all of that intention in with the paints, you know. And then when I start off on the canvas, the first thing I do is I write a word with paint on the canvas. You know, I'm like, so what does this need to be? You know, sometimes it's freedom, sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's love, you know. And so that is what that painting. And it's so funny, those colors end up being the colors that I use for that painting when I'm like, okay, what colors need to go in here? And it's so cool because some of the paintings I use my breath to move the paint as opposed to a brush or as opposed to just a cup. So I'm literally breathing life into the painting. And so it's just such a wonderful creative outlet. You know, I feel like I'm finally being the creative being that I was meant to be. You know, if we're all a pure reflection of who God is, He's the creator, you know? So I'm like finally moving in that creativity, and it's so awesome.
I love it. And we can't be anything except what we are meant to be. Just like spirit cannot be anything but what it is, which is love and light and joy and all those things. And so when we're existing in a space that it doesn't resonate with, we feel lost. We feel out of place. We feel like we've lost our purpose. And that's where life gets heavy and dark. So we are coming to the end of our half an hour here. Are there any final pieces of wisdom, any messages that you would like to share? This has been so lovely.
You know, I think my final word of wisdom would be the place where your greatest anxiety is the place where you're able to cause the most effect in the world.
Ooh.
And learned, you know, I had so much fear and anxiety about losing a parent. I had so much fear and anxiety about being myself, about leaving the earth, about not mattering. I mean, that was like one of the biggest things that I had to get over, was the idea that I didn't matter. And as I addressed that, I found out that not only do I matter, but I help other people know that they matter, you know. And that has become one of my biggest areas of influence, is helping people to know that they matter and that they make a difference in the world, and that they wouldn't be here on the earth if they didn't matter. Like, God doesn't waste time. He doesn't waste his creative influence. He doesn't waste creating a being. And you're not here to suffer, you know? And so, yeah, that's my wisdom. Like, wherever you have your biggest area of anxiety or fear, that is your greatest area of influence for the world.
Yes, turn your fear into your fire and let it fuel you. Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you, and you helped me so much. You were one of the first people that reached out when I stopped my lives back in 2018. You were like, "Hey!" So you've made a huge difference in my life. I know there's many out there who feel the same. So thank you for joining me. Thanks for spending time with us. Thank you, everyone who popped on. Love
Love
you. We'll
you.
see you again soon. Bye.